Hi, bonjour, bonjour et bienvenue. Comment allez-vous? J'espère que vous allez bien. Bienvenue. Welcome to my channel and how are you? Okay, so if it's your first time here, please click the subscribe button to keep me going, to encourage me. And if you're a returning user, thank you. A returning subscriber, sorry, a returning subscriber, welcome and thanks for watching. Anyway, this video is a must watch for every beginner. So if you've completed the A1 course and yet you aren't confident about your verb conjugations, you're having issues with verbs because you really don't understand how they change so much in French unlike they do in English. So this video is for you. So I'm here taking our time to explain so much to you what you need to know in conjugating, in pronunciation. So I'm going to be looking at all of that. I'm going to be taking into consideration the three groups of verbs. I hope you know them. The ER is the first group, the IR is the second group, the RE is the third group. First and second group are regular, but the third group, that's where you have all the irregular verbs. However, some people still have issues even with the first group verb. They don't know how to pronounce. They don't know how to even conjugate them. They still have issues. They don't know what ending should I put, what should I put here, what should I put there. So this video is for you. Okay, let's write. So welcome. Okay, so let's begin with the verb etre. To be. How do you conjugate this verb? This is an irregular verb. It's an auxiliary verb. It's an irregular verb. So as a French learner, this is a verb you should know how to conjugate, even when you've been woken up from sleep. Je suis, tu es, il est, elle est, nous sommes, vous êtes, ils sont, ils est sound. Ils sont, elles sont. Je suis, tu es, il est, elle est, nous sommes, vous êtes. Ils sont, elles sont. Vous êtes, z. That's because there's a liaison there. So that's why I'm doing vous êtes, vous êtes, z. So the S is pronounced as a Z. Okay? So there's a liaison. Alright, so that's it. So if you don't know how to conjugate this verb, please, you need to take out some time, maybe every day, try to conjugate it every single day, and before you know how to do it, and try to make sentences with it too. Je suis professeur, il est architecte, elle est boulangère, just like that, and you would find yourself using the verb and you'll be able to master the conjugation. All right, let's go to the next one, the verb avoir, the verb to have. Okay, this is quite also easy. So this is an auxiliary verb and also an irregular verb. So the conjugation of this verb isn't regular, isn't why did I say isn't regular? As in, there's no formula. You just have to know it. Okay? J'ai, tu as, il a, elle a, nous avons, because of the liaison, nous avons, vous avez, ils ont, elles ont, zon. Can you hear that zon? Whereas with être, I did ils sont, elles sont. For this one, I'm doing ils ont, zon. The pronunciation is the sound, the liaison. Okay, so liaison states that with the letter S, when you put it when you pronounce the letter S because it's in front of a vowel, or it comes before a vowel or a mute H, it goes zon. Nous avons, vous avez, ils ont, elles ont. J'ai, tu as, il a, elle a, nous avons, vous avez, ils ont, elles ont. Did you get that? Okay, let's write. So let's go to the first group verb. This is the ER verb. So under this ER verb, these ER verbs are all regular. I know the beautiful thing about 60% of the French verbs are all ER verbs. So that's quite easy, you see. It makes the conjugation easy and sweet. So, and you boost your vocabularies also. So it's easy to conjugate the ER verbs. So the endings for the ER verbs are E, ES, E, ONS, EZ, and ENT. So to conjugate the verb, you take out the ER first. You already know what the word conjugation, you aren't a new person. So this video is actually not for beginners that don't know anything in French. So this video is actually for those who have gone maybe towards the end of their A1 course, or are done with the A1 course and yet they still have difficulties. Okay, so that's the people this video is actually meant for. So if you're a complete beginner, sorry, there are certain words I wouldn't there are certain words you may not understand and I wouldn't be explaining because the video isn't for you. Okay, je chante. So I'm using I'm using three verbs to explain this. Chanter because it begins with a consonant. I'm also using aimer because it begins with a vowel, and I'm using habiter, habiter. I didn't say habiter. I said habiter because the H in French is silent. So we pronounce from the vowel after the letter H. So when you don't pronounce ha and say, oh, I'm trying to make the H soft, there's nothing like that. So there's no trying to make the H soft. You just don't pronounce it. If you want to know, go to your dictionary, check the phonetic transcription. You will not see any H there. That means the H isn't pronounced. So don't pronounce it. Habiter. Okay, so let's go with the consonant. So you take out the ER and you put the endings. So normally it's going to be ending E for first person, ES, second person, and third person you're adding E, and first person plural you're adding ONS. Okay, and the second person plural you're adding EZ, and third person plural you're adding the ENT, which is never pronounced. If you try pronouncing it, you're going to be pronouncing this. That's it. Let's see. Je chante. Tu chantes. The verb is chanter. 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 Je chante. Tu chantes. Il chante. Elle chante. Nous chantons. Vous chantez. Il chante. Elle chante. Je chante. Tu chantes. Il chante. Elle chante. Nous chantons. Vous chantez. Il chante. Elle chante. Did you realize something? This is not pronounced. So I read this. Okay, this. I read this once also as this because that's the same pronunciation. So the singulars, je, tu, il, elle, and the plural, third person plural, il, elle, are pronounced the same way. The ER verbs are pronounced the same way. The ENT is not pronounced. So let's say we want to pronounce the ENT. Let's hear how it's going to sound. Nous chantons, vous chantez, il chantez. Ils chantons. That's what you pronounce. So you see, when you say ils chantons, you're actually pronouncing nous chantons. So it's not pronounced. If you've been pronouncing it, please, my dear, you've been doing it wrong. Do not pronounce it again. Il chante, elle chante. That's how it's read. Okay, let's go to the verb aimer. So I'm going to pronounce it aimer. Aimer. All right, let's go aimer. J'aime, tu aimes, il aime, elle aime, nous aimons, vous aimez, ils aiment, elles aiment. J'aime, tu aimes, il aime, elle aime, nous aimons, vous aimez, ils aiment, elles aiment. Ils aiment, elles aiment. So you notice something? Il aime, elle aime, ils aiment, elles aiment. Yeah, that's because of this. So that's how to differentiate it, okay? So that's liaison. So you have liaison here. Nous aimons, you have it here. Vous aimez, and you also have it with the third person plural. Ils aiment, elles aiment. Ça va? Getting that. So that's it. This only happens. That's why I use aimer. I used a verb that begins with a vowel. So you can see all the cases, the pronunciations. Remember I said I also focus on pronunciations, okay? Chanter, I use chanter because of it begins with a vowel, with a consonant, chanter. So you can't say il chante. I don't know how to try that. So you know there's no liaison here. You can't have liaison with two consonants, never. Liaison only happens with a consonant and a vowel, consonant and a mute H. Okay, so that's why I used aimer so you can see the difference there. But don't you notice that this and this will pronounce the same way. the endings we pronounce the same way. We didn't pronounce this. We didn't say ils aiment. No, there's nothing like that. Okay, let's go with the verb habiter. Ooh, the camera is covering it. Let me close. Can I close the camera? Oh, I can't. It's already on and running. So you can actually, yeah, you can write it out. So you know how to conjugate it. I've shown you how to do that already. So write it out and let's go. J'habite, tu habites, ja. So the H is silent. So we are pronouncing J and A. J'habite, j'habite, tu habites, il habite, elle habite, tu habites, j'habite, tu habites, tu habites, tu as, tu, then a. The H is silent. Il habite. So you notice that I did il habite. Elle habite. A. Nous habitons. So there's also a liaison. Remember I told you liaison happens between the S and S, a consonant and a vowel, or a consonant with a mute H, because the H isn't pronounced, so we are going to the vowel after the H. Nous habitons, vous habitez, ils habitent, elles habitent, elles habitent. So you also notice the same thing that happened with the ils aiment, elles aiment is happening to ils habitent, elles habitent. So the same thing. Okay, so a consonant before a vowel and a consonant before a mute H, they are pronounced the same way, they behave the same way. Ils aiment, elles aiment, ils habitent, elles habitent. Ça va aller? Okay, let's move to the next slide. So let's look at the IR verbs. So I'm using fini as an example here. Okay, my dears, you can actually pick out some other ER verbs and try. Please, the verb aller is not an ER verb. It's not. Aller ends in ER, but it's not an ER verb. I guess you know that by now. Okay, so the verb fini, let's go with this. So this is my model. So these are the endings of the verb for fini. Is. Okay, so you take out the IR as usual, you kick off this and you add the endings. Je finis, tu finis, il finit, elle finit, nous finissons, son, deux S. So double S gives you an S sound. If it were a single S, would have been having ils finissons. But here we're having a double, here is double S. So, nous finissons. Vous finissez, S sound. Ils finissent, elles finissent. Nous finissons, vous finissez, ils finissent, elles finissent. Ça va? Nous finissons, vous finissez, ils finissent, elles finissent. The ENT is not pronounced, so you are ending at finissent. So that's the difference between this and this. Il finit, elle finit, ils finissent, elles finissent. Did you get the S there? The S in finissent are pronounced. Okay, let's go. So let's look at the third group verb. So here is the home of all irregular verbs. So all verbs in this category are all irregular. Anyway, some verbs actually kind of are conjugated in the same way. You'll find some being conjugated in the same way, but it doesn't translate that they are all conjugated in the same way. So, for this explanation, I'm using the verb vendre, and I'm also using vouloir also. But my dear, I also gave you a list of other verbs that you could. I also gave you a list of other verbs that you could try using to, a list of other verbs you could try using. So here is the list. Try to conjugate those other verbs and you will be shocked and amazed at how you've boosted your strength in conjugation and also your vocabulary. So let's go with the verb vendre, to sell. So these are the endings. So for the third person singular, you actually add nothing. So as usual, the RE will go off and there we go. Je vends, tu vends, il vend, elle vend. So they are pronounced the same way. Whether there's an S at the end or no S at the end, same pronunciation. Tu vends, je vends, tu vends, il vend, elle vend. Nous vendons, vous vendez, ils vendent, elles vendent. Ils vendent, elles vendent. So you notice the difference in pronunciation. Il vend, elle vend. Il vend, elle vend. Il vend, elle vend. Ils vendent, elles vendent. Ils vendent, elles vendent. Did you notice that? Okay. So that's what you do when conjugating other third group verbs. Please pay attention to the third person plural. Okay? Pay attention to the third person plural. Yeah. For the first group verbs, ENT isn't pronounced. They're all pronounced same way as the singular. But from the second group verbs, you need to pay attention. Pay attention, please. Okay, let's look at the verb vouloir to want. Je veux, veux. Not je vous, not je vaux, not je vous. Some people say je vous. No, it's not je vous. Je veux, 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 veux. Je veux, tu veux, il veut, elle veut, nous voulons, vous voulez, ils veulent, elles veulent. Je veux, tu veux, il veut, elle veut, nous voulons, vous voulez, ils veulent, elles veulent. So the L is pronounced. If you can conjugate this verb vouloir, then you can actually conjugate the verb pouvoir. They are like 5 and 6, brother and sister, coffee and coffee and milk. So that's how the jive. So try to conjugate the verb pouvoir. Okay, it's actually the same way. Je peux, il peut, elle peut, nous pouvons, vous pouvez, ils peuvent. It's going to give you a V because you have a V here. Ils peuvent, elles peuvent. Yeah, put that in writing. You can leave it in the comment section. Okay, so try to conjugate these other verbs. Try to conjugate it. This ends in IR, but it's not the second group verb. Remember, I told you the third group verb, so you have all irregular verbs. All irregular verbs. So I even omitted, I should have put aller. So there's aller here. Aller ends in ER, but it's not conjugated like a first group verb. It's an irregular verb. All right, let's write. Okay, let's look at the set of verbs that are called the reflexive verb, les verbes pronominaux. Les verbes pronominaux. So I'm using for my models, I'm using se raser, s'habiller, s'amuser. I'm using se raser because of here is a consonant, s'habiller because here is a mute H, and s'amuser because here is a vowel. Okay, so those verbs are reflexive verbs. So this is because the action comes back to the subject. The action is done and carried out by the subject. It's done by the subject and carried out on the subject. Yes, that's it. It's done by the subject and carried out on the subject. So, c'est le sujet qui fait l'action et c'est le sujet aussi qui subit l'action. Le sujet fait et subit l'action. So the action is done by the subject and is carried out on the subject. So I shave myself. I shave myself. I shave myself. Who am I shaving? Of course it's myself I'm shaving. There's no object that the action is coming back on me. I'm doing it on myself. So the French uses something called a pronoun, a reflexive pronoun that brings the action back on the person. And in French, don't forget that the pronouns are always placed before the verb. Before, never after. English, we place pronouns after. I shave myself, so myself is after. But French, it comes before. Whether it's COD, don't worry, I'm going to make some other video on COD and COI so you can understand more. So on more about pronouns. So whether it's a pronoun, what kind of pronoun, whatever, on, y, e, so they all come before the verb. All right, let's go. So me here represents myself, the here represents yourself, so here represents himself, so here represents herself, nous here represents ourselves, vous here represents yourself, so here represents themselves, and so here represents themselves. Let's go. Je me rase, tu te rases, il se rase, elle se rase, nous nous rasons, vous vous rasez, Il se rase, elle se rase. Did you notice something? The S isn't the Z, is not an S sound, not is Z, Z, Z sound. Je me rase. Not je me rase. Je me rase. Please don't say je me rase. I think there's really nothing like that in French. S sound. So it's a Z sound because it's a single S that has found itself in between vowels. In the case of Fini, we had double S that found themselves in between vowels, but the double S were able to withstand and they were pronounced as S. But in this case, the single S isn't able to withstand the vowels on the left and on the right, so it has to bend, and we now give it Z, Z, Z sound. Okay? Alright, so as usual, I'm using a mute H so you can see how it's pronounced and how it's written. So you can see there's always a contraction. So in French, you know, contraction is compulsory. If you haven't seen my video on contraction, please check. You would find it there on contraction. Contraction in French is compulsory. Contraction in French is compulsory. It's not optional. It's compulsory. So if you're writing and you aren't contracting, my dear, you are doing it so wrong. That means your grammar is faulty. Please always contract when writing. When speaking also, contract. Je m'habille, je m'habille. The H is not pronounced as usual. That's why you're hearing ma, because I'm doing m'habille. Je m'habille. And here is not pronounced L, is y, y, y. So don't say je m'habille. No, there's no je m'habille. It's je m'habille, je m'habille, je m'habille. Try pronouncing the verb travailler. I should have brought that in, but I just remembered while I was making the video. I should have brought in the verb travailler. Maybe I'm going to make a pronunciation video for that, so just watch out. So that's why you need to subscribe and click the bell button so you can receive notifications whenever I make a new video. So je m'habille, tu t'habilles, il s'habille, elle s'habille, nous nous habillons. So you see the habillons, habillons. Vous vous habillez, habillez. Non, s'habille. Vous vous habillez, ils s'habillent, ils habillent, ils habillent, ils habillent. Vous vous habillez, il s'habille, il s'habille, il s'habille, elle s'habille, il s'habille, elle s'habille, sorry, il s'habille, il ça, elle ça. Vous vous habillez, this S, this Z, sorry, nous nous habillons, ils a, double S, il s'habille. Okay, y is a y sound. Je m'habille, tu t'habilles, ils habillent, elles habillent. Je m'habille, tu t'habilles, ils habillent, elles habillent. Nous nous habillons, vous vous habillez, ils s'habillent, elles s'habillent. Okay, so here we're having ils habillent, il s'habille, Z. Here is il s'habille, il sa, elle s'habille, because of the double S there. Okay, that's it. Okay, let's go with the verb. This also yeah, this is a vowel. Remember I said when it emits H and a vowel, so they're always the same. Okay, je m'amuse, je m'amuse, je m'amuse. So you see ma. Je m'habille, m'habille. Je m'amuse, ma. Tu t'amuses, tu t'amuses, tu t'habilles, tu t'amuses. Ils amusent, ils amusent, ils amusent, ils amusent, ils habillent. Elles amusent, elles amusent, elles amusent. Nous nous amusons, nous nous amusons, also z. So they are all z here. Vous vous amusons. Oh, I made a mistake there. Nous nous amusons, vous vous amusez, nous nous amusons, vous vous amusez. I made a mistake, sorry please. Nous nous amusons, vous vous amusez. Is it? Il s'amuse is an ER verb, so we're not pronouncing the ENT. Il s'amuse and elle s'amuse. Il s'amuse, elle s'amuse. Ça va? So, okay, all right, let's write. Okay, so let's go to the next to the next tense, something called the passé. So we are done with all the verbs in the first group. So please go through that and yeah, that's in the all the verbs in the present tense, not first group, present tense. Present tense. So we first in present, yeah, French we have three groups of verbs. So you have the er, ir, and re. So I also took out time. I also made a slide for the pronominal verbs because people have issues there. They don't understand why a pronoun should come before the verb. So that's actually what we see in French. So please just follow it. Don't complain. Just follow it. Do it. Okay. And let's look at this tense. It's called passé récent. So this immediate past tense. So you're just talking about something that just happened. Something just happened. So you're talking about it. In English, we say I just. English says I just. I just finished eating. Oh, I just arrived. I just had a class. I just finished my assignment. So how do the French say that I just? They use the verb venir plus the preposition do and the verb that carries the action in the infinitive. So that means you have to conjugate this verb in the person you want to use in the present tense. You conjugate this verb in the present tense and in the person you want to talk about. This is not optional, it's preposition do. However, it could be the apostrophe at times if the infinitive begins with a vowel or a mute H. If it's a consonant, it will use do. If it's an aspirated H, it will use do. Please, if you don't know what a mute H is and an aspirated H, please check my videos. I've made a video on that before. So if it's an aspirated H or a consonant, it's going to use do. But if it's a vowel or a mute H, it's going to use the apostrophe. Je viens de finir mon devoir. Je viens de finir mon... Je viens, not je viens. Je viens de finir mon devoir. I just finished my assignment. Tu viens d'arriver du travail. Tu viens d'arriver du travail. Tu viens d'arriver. You just got back from work. You just arrived from work. Il vient de danser. Il vient de danser. He just danced. Elle vient de manger. Elle vient de manger. She just ate. Nous venons de regarder un film. Nous venons de regarder un film. We just watched the movie. Vous venez de Vous venez de cuisiner le dîner. So there's an R there. The verb should be in the infinitive. Vous venez de cuisiner le dîner. Vous venez de cuisiner le dîner. You just made dinner. You just cooked dinner. Ils viennent de rentrer. Ils viennent. So the N is pronounced. This is where we have the viennent. Ils viennent de rentrer. They just returned. Elles viennent de voyager. They just traveled. Feminine. Elles viennent de voyager. Alright, so I hope that's fine. So you can try to make some sentences. Okay, try to use the passive recent to say, oh, I just did this. Oh, this just happened. So try to use it. Okay, let's go to the next one. Le futur proche. Le futur proche. Yeah. So you can use this. So this is what is taught the A1. So A2 actually know the future, the simple future tense. But this is what A1 are taught. So this is what you know in the A1 curriculum. This is what you have. Okay. So this video is based on the A1 curriculum. Okay, let's go. Yeah. Le futur proche. Aller plus infinitive. Future proche. Je vais finir mon devoir cet après-midi. So future proche is quite easy. So you're using the verb aller, you conjugate the verb aller. Remember I told you it ends in er, but it doesn't belong to that group. It's an irregular verb. So you can see the conjugations here. They are so different. So different, so different, so different. Okay, so just aller and the verb in infinitive. Please do not put do because you say, oh, passé récent has the. No, this doesn't have. Just aller and the verb in infinitive. So je vais finir mon devoir cet après-midi. I'm going to finish my assignment this afternoon. I'm going to. So that's it. I'm going to go out today. I'm going to dance this evening. I'm going to go to the museum. I'm going to. This is a future tense. I'm going to. This is actually it's a future tense, but it's an informal future tense. It's a future tense. It's used mostly orally. Even in writing, it's used, but it's informal. So don't worry. When you get to A2, you're going to be taught the simple future tense. Okay? Don't worry. I'll take out some time and also make video on the verb in A2 also for you to see. Okay. Je vais finir mon devoir cet après. I'm going to finish my assignment this afternoon. Tu vas arriver à l'heure. Tu vas arriver. You're going to arrive on time. You're going to arrive on time. Il va danser ce soir. He's going to dance this evening. Elle va manger dans une heure. She's going to dance in an hour. Nous allons regarder un film. We're going to watch a movie. Vous allez cuisiner le dîner. You're going to make dinner. You're going to cook dinner. Ils vont rentrer tard aujourd'hui. Ils vont rentrer tard aujourd'hui. They're going to arrive late this evening. They're going to return late today. They're going to return late today. Ils vont rentrer tard aujourd'hui. They're going to return late today. Elles vont voyager ce week-end. They are going to travel this weekend. So one thing with this tense is that it always has a time indicator. There must always be a time indicator. Always, always, always. There must always be. This one I omitted. I omitted here also. There must always be a time indicator. Okay. All right. Let's go to the next one. So after there's the next verb to know, the next tense you should know is the passé composé. The passé composé, le passé composé avec avoir. Yeah. So we know that the passé composé uses avoir and être. So we're going to look at both of them because they are all in the curriculum of A1. Le passé composé, this is the simple past tense. So it's like you say, let's see. I say, okay, I watched a movie. I spoke to my mom. I called the company. So you see these actions have been completed. They've been completed in the past. They have no business with the present or the future. You're just reporting what you did. Completely. So the action was completed. The action of calling the company was done and completed. Completed. I watched. You're done watching the movie. I watched. Not I was watching. So you see the difference. I was watching is an imperfect tense. This is I watched. Completed. That is when you use this tense. It's a simple past tense. How is it constructed? How is it conjugated in French? It's very easy. First, you need to know how to conjugate the verb avoir. It's an auxiliary verb, so you need to know it. How to conjugate the verb avoir, and that's what you use. Then you take the main verb, the action verb, you put it in the past participle. So that's why I picked out 3 verbs for each group. I picked parler for the er, I picked finir for ir, and I picked vendre for the third group verb. So for first group verb, it's very easy. Take out the er and add an accent aigu. Take out the er and add an accent aigu. J'ai parlé. Tu as parlé. Il a parlé. Elle a parlé. Nous avons parlé. Vous avez parlé. Ils ont parlé. Elles ont parlé. Quite easy. J'ai parlé, I spoke. Tu as parlé, you spoke. Il a parlé, he spoke. Elle a parlé, she spoke. Nous avons parlé, we spoke. Vous avez parlé, you spoke. Ils ont parlé, they spoke. Elles ont parlé, they spoke. Fini. J'ai fini. You can try to make sentences with them. J'ai fini mon devoir. I finished my assignment. Tu as fini ton devoir. Il a fini son devoir. Elle a fini son devoir. Nous avons fini. Vous avez fini. Ils ont fini et elles ont fini. We finished. Completed. Okay? Vendu. So you see, they are kind of constants. There's no, after the parler, there's no agreement here because the verb avoir has no agreement. So, vendre. J'ai vendu, I sold. J'ai vendu. Tu as vendu. Il a vendu. Elle a vendu. Nous avons vendu. Vous avez vendu. Ils ont vendu, elles ont vendu. He sold, you sold, he sold, just like that. Sold. Okay, beautiful. All right, let's go to the next one. The verb être. Passé composé with the verb être. Passé composé with the verb être. So here, we're using aller and sorti as our model. They are basically the same. So I'm going to show you all verbs use, not all verbs. So like 99% of the verbs use avoir. 99% of the verbs all use avoir. So only a few verbs use être. So I'm going to show you those verbs that use être. Outside those verbs, the rest use avoir. But let me mention something. I think I'll make some other video on that. There are some verbs that use both être and avoir. Yes, some verbs too. Few verbs use both être and avoir. Both être and avoir. Okay, let's go. For the verb être, so all you need to do is conjugate the verb in être in the present tense. Then you bring the past participle of the verb and you add to it. So you see this E in brackets is called agreement. You can see L has double E. Je suis allé. I went. So if it's a lady talking like it's me, I say, oh, je suis allé au marché hier. I went to the market yesterday. Je suis allé au marché hier. So I would use this if I were to write it, I'll use it. The pronunciation is the same, whether it's a double E, it's a single E, pronunciation is the same. But if I'm writing, I would use this E. But if it's a man that's writing, he will not need this E in the bracket. He's going to throw the E away. That's why you see here, there's no E. Tu es allé. Il est allé au marché. Elle est allée au marché. Nous sommes allés. So with the verb être, you should have known être by now when you did adjectives and all of that. It's always agreeing. So the past participle must agree with the subject. So that's why we have the S here. Showing is plural. So if they are all females, they will say nous sommes allés. They will write with the E. They're going to write A-double-L, and S for female, but for a man, he will just use, for a group of male or a mixed group, that second E will not be there. Nous sommes allés. Vous êtes allés. So same here, if it's the same here, that's the agreement thing. If it's female, double E. Yeah, if you're speaking to more than one person, then you're going to have that S. If it's just one person you're speaking to, that S wouldn't be there. Ils sont allés, elles sont allées. So you see here, aller agrees with il. Aller agrees with elle. Same thing here, je suis sorti, tu es sorti, il est sorti, elle est sortie, nous sommes sortis. Vous êtes sortis, ils sont sortis, elles sont sorties. So you can see the agreement. You can see that. Okay. All right, let's go. Yeah. So let's look at those let's look at the verbs that use être to form their passé composé. So here they are. So there are 16 verbs that use the verb être to form their passé composé. You have the verb devenir. So you use this, look, we use this to remember them. Dr. Mrs. Dr. Mrs. P. Van de Trump. Van de Trump. Dr. Mrs. P. Van de Trump. So that's it. You'll be able to remember all of them. The verb venir is there. So if you miss the P, that means you're going to be missing either parti or passé. These are all the verbs. They are actually movement verbs. I will show you. They are actually movement verbs. Okay, so let's look at some other set of verbs that use être. These are the pronominal verbs. They use être to form their passé composé. All right, let's look at this. They use the verb être to form their passé composé. So let's look at this. So I'm using se raser, we saw it earlier, and s'amuser. So I didn't bring in se raser and s'habiller. I didn't bring in s'amuser because s'habiller and s'amuser actually behave the same way. So I didn't see a need to bring in s'amuser. Je me suis rasé. So the pronoun will now come before the auxiliary verb. Remember, pronouns always come before the verb. So don't say je suis me rasé. Don't say that. It will always come before the verb. Please remember that in French, pronouns will always come before the verb. Pronouns will always come before the verb. Will always come before the verb. Je me suis rasé. So the agreement, I guess you understand it by now. Tu t'es rasé. Il s'est rasé. Elle s'est rasée. Nous nous sommes rasés. Vous vous êtes rasés. Ils se sont rasés. Elles se sont rasées. It's quite easy with consonants, but let's go to the mutation. Je me suis habillé. Je me suis habillé. Tu t'es habillé. Il s'est habillé. Elle s'est habillée. Nous nous sommes habillés. Vous vous êtes habillés. Ils se sont habillés. Elles se sont habillées. So there's an E after, yeah, so the video is covering the S. There's an S there. So there's an S here. So after that you have an S, yeah. Oh, I just did it. I just wrote it on the video. Oh, beautiful. So there's an S there. Okay, so I guess that's clear now, quite understood. Let's look at this picture together. So these are all the verbs, okay? These are all the verbs that use être in their passé composé. So while you have this verb apparaître, you see, to appear, you have naître, to be born, aller, you see they're all movement verbs. And not just the verbs, so these are the ones I showed you. You would also notice the verbs that are derived from these verbs also use être. So revenir. Revenir is derived from venir, to come back. Parvenir is derived from venir. Devenir is derived from venir. So they all use the verb être. Monter, remonter. Same here. Okay, so there, rester, you would see all of them. All, yeah, and décider. So all retourner. And pronominal verbs. We've seen les verbes pronominaux, reflexive verbs. So we saw. Okay, so lever, se laver, se réveiller. We use the se raser and s'habiller because of when to look at pronunciations, and yeah. Okay, so yeah, so look at them here also. These are just movement verbs, not showing pronominal verbs. Okay, so we've come to the end of the video. I hope you had a great time. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you understood everything. I hope this is really going to help you with your verbs. I hope it has cleared off every doubt where you're having issues with either pronunciations or how to conjugate them. But this is my advice for you as a learner. You can't say you're learning a language and for 2-3 days you won't open your French book. No. So for you to master French verbs, you need to conjugate at least 5 verbs a day. Just pick up your dictionary, open it, and pick out 5 verbs. Yeah, IR, RE, ER, conjugate them. Maybe you could say, okay, I'll conjugate them today in the present tense. Tomorrow I will conjugate them in the past tense using the passé composé. And maybe you say, okay, next tomorrow I'll do them in future proche, in the future tense, just like that. So that's how you get to master verbs. Anyway, I'm wishing you the same. I'm wishing you the best in your French learning, and all the best. Passez alors une bonne journée. Au revoir. Bye, bye, bye.